Welcome to the Grow Your Money podcast, where we're on a mission to change how we talk about money. Our fireside chats are the heart of our show, bringing the energy and excitement of in-person events straight to your ears. We aim to connect you with inspiring voices and stories that matter, sharing relatable experiences and insights that will transform your financial life. Everyone deserves access to practical financial knowledge, so we're making money conversations relatable by inviting guests from all walks of life to share their real-life experiences with money. But this isn't your typical money show. We look at the emotional, psychological, and cultural factors that shape our relationship with money. So hit subscribe and join us for another episode of the Grow Your Money podcast.
Good morning. It's a big pleasure to have you with us, Lloyd. I met you briefly at Parliament, and so we're on the same side trying to get things going, and I'm really keen to hear about you. I would like you to introduce yourself and tell the audience who you are and how you got into politics.
Great. Good morning. Thanks, Tina. I mean, it was fantastic to see you, what feels like just the other day in the Houses of Parliament to talk about a Fair Banking Act. I suppose, I'm a newly elected MP, so I'm fresh into this place. I was first elected back in July as a Labour Member of Parliament for South Dorset, which, for those who don't know that part of the world so well, is in the West Country. It's a charming part of the world, full of lots of beautiful seaside towns, rolling hills, picturesque coastline as well. It's where I grew up, so that's for me why I stood. I've never stood for Parliament before. This was the first time I've ever sort of put myself forward for something of this level, and it's fantastic and a real privilege to be able to represent your hometown, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your neighbours, your former classmates. There's something quite special and quite personal being able to represent your own community. So I'm enjoying every minute of it.
From effortless saving techniques, making more money, investing wisely, or finally building that financial safety net. Hello, my name is Tynah Matembe, CEO of Moneymatic, which is an award-winning financial education company. So if you're ready to take control of your money, don't wait. Book your spot now, and let's make 2025 your best year yet. See you there. That's really cool. I was thinking, I don't sit down and think, right, let me go and be an MP. So how then is it something you've, always had at the back of your mind? Is it a way you feel you can address issues? How do you
I
decide?
think I've always thought maybe this is something I'd like to do. I wasn't quite
Mhm.
sure when. I wanted to go and do other things first, which I, before coming to this idea. And it is something you do sort of think about, and then you err about, and you ask your mum and dad, and you ask your best friend, and you sort of go, "Oh, is this a good idea?" And then you sort of chew up the pros and the cons. And I think for me, I'm only ever going to stand in my constituency of South Dorset because it's home, and I think what's amazing about the place, but you also know what the challenges are as well, and it
Mhm.
enables you to really feel like you can be an advocate for that community. So I suppose that was how I reached the conclusion. The place felt right because it was home, and also after a few sort of back and forths with people who matter most to me, I was able to reach the conclusion that this was a good idea, and I felt like there was something positive that I could contribute.
That's awesome. And you're right. I think I always talk about leading with passion. Like if you're passionate about something, you're already like 10 steps ahead of everyone else. It won't feel like a burden. It won't feel like a job. And so you're likely to be more effective and impactful.
That's
Um,
right.
which brings me to my next point around fair banking, because that's how we met. We are all about this fair banking, and I've had a lot of questions around what the the APPG is,
Mm.
and what it is on fair banking. Do
Yeah,
you want to talk a bit about that and your
sure.
passion around that?
Yeah, so for the normal person on the street who quite rightly has no bloody clue what an APPG is,
Hmm.
basically it is an all-party parliamentary group. So this basically means a group of MPs, Labour, Conservative, Liberal Democrat, all the rest, are coming together around a single issue that we care about and where we want to make a positive difference in Parliament. So the all-party parliamentary group for fair banking is all about saying how can we look at our banks, look at our financial services sector, and make sure that it works for consumers, so for individuals like you and me, and also for businesses as well. I suppose the reason why I came to this is because too often it feels like our financial services sector is inward looking.
Mhm.
or is a little bit of a closed shop, and actually it is actually holding growth back, making life difficult for too many people, particularly communities like mine, where if you want to set up a business or you need access to finance so you can support your family or you name it, it often feels like actually the banking world isn't really on your side and it's against you. So for me, it's about trying to level that playing field and sort of tilt things back in favor of individuals, of small businesses, so they can get a fair slice of the cake.
Very brilliant. I mean, I agree with you. It's something that's just it's a mammoth task, and your perception and your first interaction with banking, as I always say, determines how you're going to relate to them at all.
Mm,
Which brings me to that whole point around consumer protection and how this Fair Banking Act would then strengthen protection for consumers,
mm,
particularly those who are financially vulnerable. I mean, I share about my own journey moving to the UK and becoming vulnerable really quickly because you just and you're not banked, you have a thin credit file, and you become vulnerable without even realizing you are. How do you see that Fair Banking Act strengthening those protections?
So I think what's really important is if we were to have a Fair Banking Act or anything similar to it, it
Hmm.
would be about throwing open the doors and bringing in some much needed transparency to the banking world. And what we would have is a framework which rates how well a bank or a financial institution does when it comes to financial inclusion and making sure that new small businesses or indeed individuals who are in a vulnerable position are able to access lending, access other services from a bank. So by having that framework, that rating system, we can see exactly who's the best, who's in the middle, and who are the worst offenders. And I think transparency is key here because it will drive up standards and it will lead to a culture change in the banking world. The example I often use, Tynah, is when you go for a takeaway on a Friday night, there's a food hygiene rating in the window and it says either 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. And it's 5 star, you think, great, I'll go there for my fish and chips. If it's 2 stars, you might think again and go, actually, let's go somewhere else. And I think having that really transparent, really clear rating system for banks when it comes to financial inclusion and to offering services to everyone, not just some people and some businesses. I think having that rating system is really valuable because it will show us who's doing a good job and therefore who you should perhaps try and be a customer with and who also needs to do a heck of a lot better. And I think it will drive up standards.
I couldn't agree more. That's absolutely what I keep saying. And using the example of the takeaway, if you don't have a standard to which you're holding people accountable to,
Mm.
everyone is deciding what good looks like for them.
I
So I
think a
think
lot of people are quite shocked that this sort of thing doesn't already exist. I think it's quite
exactly.
pragmatic and quite a common sense idea. And
Yeah.
wherever you look, whether it's getting food or buying a new car or going on holiday, people shop around and they look for that standard. They look for those clear ratings and those independent signs that this is a good place and a good thing to do business with. Whereas actually, we don't really have that in the banking world at the moment. Well, at least it's nowhere near strong enough.
Absolutely. And could you touch on some of what those provisions could look like, with the ones that would be rating them towards?
Hmm. So basically, we'd have the Financial Conduct Authority,
Hmm.
which is the sort of the FCA is the main regulator for banks and other financial institutions. So this would sit with them to put this together.
Hmm.
And I think they would put together a clear rating system. But also, I really want to see the scope and the role of the FCA sort of beefed up a bit. So not
Hmm.
only do they say these are the good guys, these are the somewhere in between guys, and these are the bad guys, they also then put forward recommendations for how we can drive up the standards for those worst offenders. So, for example, it might be that these banks need to start working in partnership with other financial institutions, like a regional mutual, like a co op, banks that perhaps are more likely to work with a very small business, more likely to work with an individual living in an area of high deprivation or a vulnerable individual, as you described earlier. So I think that's for me important, is you have the FCA as a kind of strong driver of change, as well as them being the institution that sets out this clear rating system for how banks are performing when it comes to financial inclusion and making sure that their services are available to everyone or the widest group of people possible, rather than it feeling like a closed shop.
And the safe thing with that is the FCA seems like the more friendly place to go, so to speak, because they're out for the consumer. That we've seen them doing things that have sort of move this forward in terms of like the consumer duties and that. So it definitely makes sense that they are in the space, they know what's happening. It would definitely go a long way. Thank you so much for sharing on that. I think it's important as part of the piece of trying to get the act going is also education. So at Moneymatic, we're all about educating people, whether it's consumers, whether it's providers, service providers, and this is just that education piece to help people understand what that looks like. And you hosted us kindly, which was amazing. And I think it's all those conversations, having those conversations continuously will get us closer to the mark. I appreciate you coming on to the show. I always ask what song or movie you'd play on repeat forever if you are stuck with it.
Well,
And
forever, is a very long time. But I suppose my answer would probably have to be Beggin' by Frankie and the Four Seasons, which is a very old song, but a very, very catchy one.
Nice. Oh, thank you so much for your time, Lloyd. It's been awesome having you.
Pleasure to be speaking. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Thank you for listening to the Grow Your Money podcast. If you're looking to take actionable steps toward achieving your financial goals, visit moneymatix.com. That is money, MATIX.com. And join our free Grow Your Money Challenge. Let's unite in the movement to inspire people to talk about money. Thank you for being a part of our community. We'll see you in the next episode.